I love teaching all about machine quilting, and we've been doing a ton of videos for you on free motion, but I'm getting a lot of questions about how to do stitch in the ditch, how to use a walking foot. Well, that's what today's tutorial is all about. Before we jump into the how-tos of the walking foot and some stitch in the ditch, let's talk about when we would use it, because you know I love the free motion to be able to go all over, but a walking foot's job is kind of like the four-wheel drive in your pickup. It's going to help us get all of our layers to start and finish correctly, and my best example is a t-shirt quilt. And if you haven't done t-shirt quilts, yes, I'm already dreaming up a project for you. At the moment, I'm going to turn you onto a great book to get your brain going, right? And on the t-shirt quilt I have here on the set, it is a bunch of small and or large pieces from our t-shirts. It's usually stabilized then with an interfacing, and this one's even built on Minky. So what I'm really trying to tell you is that these layers want to go everywhere, and it's a big project, right? Usually t-shirt quilts are these wonderful big gifts. So to get from one end to the other, we might have our three layers start to shift because of the way that the sewing machine is designed with only the feed system below. Well, a walking foot is this wild looking tool here, right? And its job really is to be activated by the needle as well. So while the needle's going, it makes it move with the rest, but what's happening is there's a set of four-wheel drive, right? You're getting that posi traction coming down below the foot from the top, and it's locking in with your lower feed system to help all those layers travel together. So the first question I often get is, how do you put it on the machine? So let's go to the machine real quick. And in the printable below, we've got a nice little layout that's got some images for you, but here I'm going to walk you through it in the video. The first thing we need to do is we need to remove the original sewing foot. Usually that's done with a screw here, and once the foot is off, on this particular walking foot, I actually have a hole there instead of a slide like the other foot, so I'm going to have to remove the entire screw. Okay, need that handy. Don't lose that. You cannot find those at the hardware store. And then the other thing is this little part here that goes up and down, I'm going to need to get that around over here where the needle is held into the machine at the same time that I'm kind of lining up this hole where the foot came off over there. So I kind of bring it around like yay. And I'm watching first to make sure that I get this bar around the screw holder, and then I'm looking to the other side to make sure I've lined up that hole like that. And then I can lower the presser foot, and I always finger tighten the screw, and that'll make sure that you're getting your threads in there right. And you can see I'm adjusting the presser foot a little bit just to let that hang nice. And then once I'm confident that the threads are going together well, then I can come in here and tighten this up with a screwdriver. Let's talk about that t-shirt quilt again for another second, because I want you to think about the girth of a giant, like king-size t-shirt quilt. Lots and lots and lots of stitches. The vibration of the machine moving with this little clamp around the needle screw could cause your needle to start to loosen up. So what I like to do is when I'm changing bobbins, when I'm doing stitch in the ditches, I always come back in here with my screwdriver, and I also make sure that my needle screw has remained tight. Some walking feet will even cover with a little piece of rubber that goes around the needle screw to help eliminate that vibration. Okay? Now, let's go back to the project. We have the foot in place. We are doing stitch in the ditch. So that means that my feed dogs are also up on the bottom of the machine. So I'm making sure I've done that. My stitch length is going to be set to about a 2.5. I've done that on the machine. But now I want to talk about with free motion, we generally start in the middle of our project and we radiate outward. The reason we do that is we can assume that our quilt top, the bigger the top, the more it's going to grow. So we always have extra batting and extra backing past our quilt top. So as we free motion, it pushes all of that to the outside. Start in the center, go in all directions. With stitch in the ditch, however, what we're going to generally do is we're going to start at one side and we're going to sew in to all the way to the other side of the project, or the runs within the blocks. Watch this. What I'm really trying to say is as I look at this project, I'm going to find my shortest seams that help go across the majority of the project. And this seam across the center here, and these seams are shorter runs than using this whole long seam over here. So the very first stitching I would do is I'm going to start over here, and I'll show you here in a second. I'm going to go down this way. But to keep our layers traveling appropriately with stitch in the ditch, these two, I'm going to go back this direction. So 1, 2, 3. That way I'm making sure that I'm pushing and pulling the batting within the quilt. So now I bring this over to the machine. And I'm looking at the needle. If you want to be really good, you can lower by hand, make sure that needle's in there. And then one of the things I do is I kind of use my hands, but they're back over here, but I'm kind of using my hands to pull away the seam a little bit so that the needle will hopefully lay right in there. Of course, you could echo quilt the ditch by 1/4 inch. If you're looking really close, you can see I use a red thread when piecing the block. Okay, so I'm just in that ditch like that. I get confident, I'm gonna pick up the pace a little bit. I also readjust my hands. Okay, so now I'm at this other end. Let's lock that stitching in. We can cut our thread here. Now remember, I came down this way. So for this one, I'm gonna rotate. And now I'm down over here on the next seam that's in alignment. Lock that stitching in. Separate your fabric. Okay, to this end. Let's back that up, lock it in. And I went that same direction. Now I'm just going to scoot this down here. Lock it in. Now the walking foot's doing all the work. So I'm just steering, I'm just guiding that seam right in front of my needle. I'm not pushing or pulling because I want all those layers to be affected by the 4-wheel drive that's going right now. Okay? I thought I was in free motion mode. I tried to pull back on the quilt. Did you see that? I forgot. I'm such a free motion quilter. I forgot the feed dogs were working for me. As I'm telling you, the feed dogs are working for you. My goodness. Do what I say, not what I do sometimes around here, right? Okay, so yes, I stitched these 3 seams now. So basically that's been anchored. My next choice would be to either go around this diamond. That's what I would prefer to do. You could also look on this outer edge, but if you go around that outer edge, you might find that you start to get some pucker in there. But when I do get to that outer edge, again, I'm gonna start on one side, I'm gonna go down this way, and I'm gonna come back the opposite direction. So while you're doing that stitch in the ditch, it's just a little bit of give and take with the whole project so that when you're done, all of your layers are nice and smooth, and all of the quilting is finished. And then at that point, all you have to do is square back up, put your binding on, ready for a label, and a fantastic gift. So what do I want to know from you today in the comments? Something completely different. I want to hear about your very favorite t-shirt. I've got a stack this tall that will be a quilt very soon, right here at Man Sewing. Thanks for being a Man Sewing fan. It's great to have you out there encouraging me to create fantastic new content. If you've missed any of the videos, we've got links for you here and here. And while you're checking those out, make sure you're subscribed. We don't want you to miss any of the action.